The wheel of time turns, and the age that once gave birth to the myth that is the massive Wheel of Time series of books has come again, in order to finally bring this fantasy epic to our screens. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Glorious Reacts. Before we begin, I would like to introduce ourselves. I'm the Thriller in Manila, Joel, and with me are our glorious reactors. First, we have the Thunder from Down Under, Arnold. Say hello, Arnold.
Hello.
There you go. And we also have with us the Singapore Sling Paul.
The
Say
low,
hello, Paul.
the low energy, low
Low
Kind of
energy.
low
energy.
energy a bit. Let's see if the
Singapore
discussion's
sling.
gonna
We'll
pull
see.
him
We'll
up.
see.
I got,
Yeah,
I drank too many
Slings.
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 That's what you get.
That's what you get. All right. Anyway, we hope that your energy comes back up while we're discussing, Paul. Anyway, in this episode of Glorious Reacts, we discuss episode 5 of the Wheel of Time series entitled The Flame of Tar Valon, as streamed on the Amazon Prime video streaming service. Before we continue, I would like to inform you, dear audience, that this is not a spoiler-free show, and we will talk directly about events that transpired in the latest episode, most of which will reveal key story elements. If you haven't watched the latest episode or any episodes of The Wheel of Time and would like to remain unspoiled, please stop here and come back once you're all caught up. Without further ado, let's get the wheel turning. In this episode, we are introduced to Swan Sanche, the leader of the Aes Sedai, called the Amyrlin Seat, and one of the most powerful Aes Sedai in recent memory. The sisters are gathered into the throne room, where representatives of all the different orders gathered to witness the gentle Loghain sentenced not to die, but rather to be of service to the sisters. Liandrin, Moiraine, and Alana face the consequences of their decision on the field as well, with the Red Sister standing her ground and claiming it was only right that they severed the false dragon's connection to the source before he hurt other sisters. The congregation of Aes Sedai are surprised when Alana and Moiraine, members of other Ajas, support the decision of Liandrin, creating the potential for a shift in the Aes Sedai politics. While awaiting the Amberlin's decision on her participation in the gentling, as well as her unwillingness to reveal the true intentions of her journeys from Tyr to Two Rivers, Moiraine is informed by her network of spies about the arrival of the two separate parties from the Two Rivers Four. She visits Mat and Rand, supposedly ridding Mat of the darkness that was plaguing him, and Perrin and Egwene, setting in motion things that she had planned long before. The next day, she is exiled from Tar Valon. But it all is just a clever ruse for the other sisters not to further question her absence from the White Tower, as she, along with the Two Rivers Five and Loyal the Ogier, use the ways to head to the Eye of the World, the place where the previous dragon imprisoned the Dark One, on a mission to finally rid the world of his darkness. All right, guys, we watched the politics play out
Yet
inside
again, even more of the
throne room.
politics, actually.
Even more of the politics, as I'm sure that as like first time witnesses of the events that transpire in the Wheel of Time, in the world of the Wheel of Time, that must have been even more exposition for you guys.
Yeah.
And aside from that, can you give your top takeaways from this week's episode? Let's start with Arnold.
So, what I really liked about this episode is the focus on two people in particular. I'll start with the one who's been, I guess you could say, the face of the show so far, Moiraine. And so far, we've met her as this quiet, very, very almost stoic, just like her warden, actually. A lot of secrets, very, very close to keeping her cards very close to her heart. Nobody knows what she's planning, or what she's planning, what she knows, what she's out to do, except probably her warden. Maybe even her warden's not familiar. We the four, the Two Rivers four obviously are very cautious around.
And Nynaeve. So
And
Two Rivers
Nynaeve.
5.
Oh, sorry, the Two Rivers five. That's right. We grouped all of them together. Are very very cautious around her because of the fact that they don't feel that they could trust her, and for good reason. She doesn't really reveal a lot of things, except in this episode. Oh my gosh, she's suddenly a person. You'd think that prior to that she was some sort of automaton, and here we see a significant, I guess, chunk of her personal life, especially that life that she seems to have left when she went on this 2-year endeavor to identify the next, the Dragon Reborn. Sorry, not the next, but the Dragon Reborn. And I'm talking about her relationships, particularly with the new character that was introduced in the second one I want to talk about, the Amerlin Seat, Swain. Swain? Is that how she pronounces her name?
I think it's Swan.
Swan, sorry.
Swan.
Swan Sanche. So Swan Sanche was introduced to us in the very beginning of the show, and it was rather a sad parting with her father when her father realizes that she is capable of bigger things that are bigger than himself, and their little fishing village which got burned down apparently.
Was it even a village? I didn't even
was
see
the
any other.
house.
It was them basically.
It's their house, yeah.
I actually thought it was some sort of village that they were bringing their goods to, but yeah, you're right. Maybe
they
it was
had a
just
lot of
them.
fish, probably just for themselves.
Just for themselves. And she was sent off, obviously, to the White Tower with a message, a parting gift, I guess, from her father that she took with her. And I'll be talking about that message a little bit later on. And these two women, you could consider particularly central to the story. Even if the Amerlin Seat has only been introduced now, we're shown a very powerful woman. Powerful, not particularly in magic or the use of the one power. It seems we haven't seen that happen so far. But at least in terms of her control of the White Tower and effectively the people who are around her, all who seem to be very power hungry and have their own motivations. And we get to see the facade, I guess, and this is where I was trying to get to. Both of them have this facade that they're putting in front of to maintain their position of power or position. I'm not so sure, but if it's a position of power in Moiraine, but her position, I guess, as a blue Aja and a person. A Aes Sedai whose focus is primarily on gathering information, and it's just amazing how similar these two women are. The Amerlin Seat needs to or has to maintain a grip on the seat. It's funny how, and I'm not so sure if this is explained further in the book. But it's funny how they name both the person and the object, the reference of the authority, or the same thing. You know, there's no difference between the person and the seal of authority or office. Is what I wanted to say. And I
think that was on purpose.
Oh, for sure. And I'm very curious as to what that implication means. Is it just that the Amerlin Seat? It doesn't matter if I guess it just means that it doesn't matter who's sitting in there. It's just that once you've taken that hold of that seal of office, you are afforded this certain level of everything, authority, power, privilege. But at the same time, I think it's also something that needs to be maintained and held. And we find out that her hold is quite tenuous. You already mentioned in the top of the show with the recap that there's the power play that we saw in the field between the Red Aja and Moiraine, I guess, is times how many colors are there? 5?
Let me.
There's like white, yellow, green,
white, yellow,
blue,
green,
red.
brown, red, blue.
Oh, so there's 6.
Yeah,
is white a color? White's a color.
Yeah.
White's
That is part of it.
I think about 5 or 6. Let's just say 6, right? And so that's a lot more. That's a lot more that she needs to contend to. And obviously we see that. We see how much toll it takes on her, because when they're together, and this was a surprising thing, when Lan visits her at that time when she was like all dressed down, probably ready to go to bed. Clearly, she was not. She was going on a little rendezvous.
Well, she was heading to bed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Just not hers. And I'm actually very curious about what she did. Did she just apparate somewhere? I don't know. What's that?
That's
mode of
probably a
transportation?
doorway, the same one they used.
Yeah,
At
because
the
if you
end.
remember, they probably not the way. It's not.
No,
the way.
not yet the way,
yeah.
but it's the maybe same type of
Because
magic that
yeah,
forms
if you
a
remember,
connection.
they both have that similar portrait
Mm.
on the wall. I don't remember it from the books, but I'm guessing that's how they get into. I don't even think that she went to
It's a
Swan's
place.
like
Right.
quarters.
It's
Yeah,
it probably
It-
is not.
I think it's
It's probably the original house.
yeah, or at the very least something that Swan conjured up, weaved together to make it look like.
So do you
her
think it's
house.
not a real place? I think it's a real place.
No, it is, but it's not inside the
The
White Tower.
Yeah. So that's so
And
they've
in my head, it's
designated. They designated the place. Oh, all right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I would have assumed that they would rather have their little trysts in the physical world, or else what's the point? Right? And it's all about this that segment over there. We finally see them, especially Moiraine, release all of her frustration. And also show a very interesting side to her. She apparently is the dominant one in that relationship. Very, very interesting.
But then again, she does kind of exude that sort of authority in
I just
with the others. It's just that it's surprising that she also has that similar authority over Swan.
authority, right? Exactly. No, I always just assumed it was an authority bit from an Aes Sedai to laymen. Because obviously they're very powerful individuals and their entire religions based around them, or belief systems based around them. So I just assumed that because you were walking around and there's this really powerful woman who can control, who can touch the one power, and you're scared, right? I always assumed that's the basis of their authority. And now it's just seeing this as equals, well, they're not particularly equals, and her mother supposedly is submitting to her. It's just an interesting twist, I guess, is what I'd like to say. And finally, so it's both sides. Although Swan, we just recently discovered. We just recently met, so the two sides to her personality isn't as shocking. I guess it's very, it's a lot easier for me to accept that. It's just that in Moiraine's case, it's just that she's held up a very strong facade in a long time. Finally, I wanted to point out that there's a interesting parallelism between Swan's leaving her father in the beginning of the episode and Moiraine being exiled towards the end of the episode. The parallel being the special message or declaration that was shared. Interestingly, though, they were shared to the same person. So her father, Swain's father, told her that she was strong. I should have taken note of the actual text,
The actual quote.
But it was very nice, very saying that she was strong as the waves, and that she's this person who will never relent and go for what she really wants. And in the same and then that's why and then her father tells her to go. This is more of like a telling, it's more of like a parent telling a child that you don't worry, you will be alone, but you're strong, something to that effect. Now when Moiraine told Swan that, it was interesting because obviously she was sort of saying the same thing, except that she's a grown woman now. She was saying it to be, don't worry, because they're parting, they're lovers, and they're parting, and this is breaking Swain, up, or making her, and this could potentially weaken her as the Amerlin seat. And Moiraine's asking her that, no, be strong, because I need you to be the Amerlin seat because of the stupidity that I'm about to do. And I just
To cover for me.
to cover my ass, especially when things go sideways. No, I just found that parallelism very, very interesting, very strong, and very curious as well.
Nice. Okay. How about you, Paul?
Well, actually, for me, the episode is sorry, not the episode, but the series in general. I've been liking the pace at which this episode is tackling the book.
This episode.
Sorry,
in
the
particular.
whole the series. I mean, all throughout the series, at least with the episodes we've seen, they've just at least I feel they've knocked it out of the park on the pacing of the show. I really like the pacing. They don't spend a lot of time. They show very important segments like where the Amerlin seat came from, her origin story. So but there's still a little bit of room to show later on if they need to, but at least you get the gist of what makes her so headstrong. So for me, for example, you see that starting scene where their house got burned. You see the dragon's tooth symbol, which is the sign of the Dark One, and you see her father tell her that if they look down on you, show them who you are. And then we see her in the seat, so we know that she showed them who she is. So
She's the one looking down on everybody.
Yeah.
Her
so
seat's
we
raised.
know that she has that capability. She is a very powerful person. So now you get to you're curious, and you want to see more of how did she get to where she is. We see her beginning. We see her current situation. How is that like? How was her life? Now you're curious about that character. But you don't need to do a whole episode, right? You now have captured someone's interest in a character who you've maybe spent the 15 minutes, a scene worth 15 minutes, which is really good because there's a lot of books to cover the whole show, right? And so you really need to I think the showrunners have done it in it's a very intelligent way of just taking snippets and putting them into the into an episode, but leaving room to explore more if they need to later on. But answering the most important questions that that the viewer needs to know, to at least understand what's to come.
Right.
So I really like the way that they're handling the show, because I don't know if if a treatment like how they did Game of Thrones would have suited this show. It may have made it boring, maybe.
You're referring to having one season per book?
No, I was referring if they had more episodes per season.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I keep on getting surprising myself and realizing that there's only 8 episodes in this season.
There's only 8.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So
then again, Game of Thrones only had like 10 episodes per season.
yeah.
That's fair. But then 1 hour. Is this 1 hour? Yeah, it is 1 hour.
It is 1 hour.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It never felt like it's a long road to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
With this show versus Game of Thrones, where it might have been also the pacing of each episode, not necessarily like the time spent on the whole journey, but more of like how Game of Thrones scenes are really focused on one person at a time, versus this is always everything that's happening around the world at the same time. So
It's like
So I feel like the way they approach the creation of the show does it justice when we get to hopefully, I mean, I haven't seen the end, and I don't know what's in the books
Two more
versus
episodes. Two more episodes.
yeah,
left.
what so hopefully I can catch up. Not the book, but the graphic novel I'm reading. So at least I have a comparison, so to speak. So, but yeah, I mean, that's my takeaway because I've I think I've repeated that like even the past episodes on how amazing it is that they do time skips and I'm sorry, time skips. Yeah, they fast forward. They 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 just they don't focus on things that they don't need to focus right now, but they
Okay.
gloss over some things that may be important later on. So it's different. So because I've never, I guess I don't think I've seen a series that's done it this way. That's fantasy based.
High
Like
fantasy.
yeah, because it's always been it had to be elaborate. They had to describe everything. Yeah, so I
Well,
don't know.
that's true.
Because even The Witcher wasn't this fast. You know, they had episodes where I was really trying. It wasn't boring, but it was okay.
They seemed that it was
felt like it
plodding
was a
already.
filler.
Yeah, it was like plodding
it,
already.
it felt like filler episodes. But then Witcher had a lot of episodes. What was it? A lot?
No.
It wasn't as long either, and it was a single
Mm.
drop. So there's
Right,
also
yeah.
the impact of watching it one after the other versus us waiting a week to like nibble on it and digest it, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think what they did here is that they, like you said, they glossed over some storylines that probably they felt were not as important, and they really just they picked like what Arnold said, a face for the series.
mm,
And we've it's I think that we can all agree that so far this has been a very Moiraine centric show.
And what a lovely
Right.
face to look at, anyways. It's fine.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No complaints here. But yeah, it seems that it's that. It's her journey towards finding the Dragon Reborn. Basically, that's what we've been seeing so far. That's why all the times that she was unconscious, they didn't really focus too much on it because
yeah.
she's not really in it.
She's not really in it. Now this is the opportunity. This is your opportunity, Egwene. This is your opportunity, Nynaeve, to like shine. But obviously, the moment she's back, everything's like, all right.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's got to be about Moiraine. And then that's right. It focuses the story. Although Paul, I'm sure that if ever there are any book fans who have been watching our
Oh, yeah.
episodes, I'm sure that they're gonna have some reactions.
No,
because-
no. I understand. I'm at that part of the graphic novel where I think you mentioned I think last week or the week before when we were talking about who we think should be the mentor of each of the people from
Yep.
the two rivers, right?
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, this is the guy who's gonna do this. It's like, oh, maybe they'll find someone in Tarvalon. And then I'm at that point in the graphic novel where they
already
haven't
starting to get-
reached Tarvalon. They're walking towards Tarvalon, but they meet a certain someone.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very important subject that they should have put inside the
Yes.
series. It's
Yes, but then again, they okay. Arnold's gonna get a little OP here, but that they've changed that person's story significantly in the series.
yeah, exactly. It was very different. So
all right, I just
I guess
figured it
it-
out.
I guess it's okay for a
It's Lan.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
yeah.
He was supposed to be Caucasian.
Nah,
Yeah.
definitely. We've already complained about that.
He was supposed to look like the mountain.
Indeed.
Anyway, yeah, but I still would have wanted that particular journey to take place, you know.
Mm.
But because when I was reading, it's like, oh, this is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
because that person was actually explaining things, not in a direct way, but he was still there explaining things, right? But here we just don't. We don't know about it.
We don't.
just
Yeah, we don't.
see
We don't even
clues,
meet him.
and then Moiraine says something about, oh, don't tell anyone. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, but we
Okay. So
don't.
yeah, yeah. So Arnold, you figured it out. It's
Yeah.
what?
No, no, no,
It's
yes.
yeah. It's Perrin Ibarra.
Yes.
He has a totally different story in the books, and he actually gets a sort of mentor,
Yep.
a teacher,
Yep.
even before they get to Tarvalon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, maybe. Well, yeah. He's learning it on his own.
Yeah, yeah, which is only but fitting because he is learning about the ways of the wolf, which is a wild
Exactly.
Yeah.
animal,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right?
So
Just like how Arya Stark learned about the ways of the wolf. She wasn't really being mentored by anyone, or was Arya? No, sorry. Who was this Brand learning how to warg? Didn't really get anyone until he got to
well,
the
until he met
three-eyed
the Reed children.
Oh yeah.
So there was that. Anyway,
Yeah. Okay, nice thoughts, guys. Okay, from our impressions about the episode, let us now go into looking ahead. So let's switch things up a bit. Let's start with Paul. Paul, what are your theories, predictions, or expectations in the next couple of episodes, or maybe even in future seasons?
Future seasons.
future
Okay,
seasons
well,
are-
let's start with a couple of episodes first. But I feel like when we saw Matt not join everyone in the
Mhm.
in the ways, I feel like his idea wasn't to run away, or in his mind he was really trying to assess the situation and make a decision based on what he thinks is the right way, not Moraine's
Ooh.
way. So I feel like what's gonna happen is he's thinking about it. He didn't join because he feels like there's another way to approach the problem. So then that's where we are going to see Matt meet or reintroduce Tom,
Mhm.
and Matt and Tom are going to do probably rejoin the group, but have taken a different path around getting there.
giant
getting to the
eagles.
I don't think that they've got the eagles here in this one.
Matt's probably gonna battle a Balrog first to level up a bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Turn into white from gray into white. Excellent.
Yeah.
We need a
Yeah,
Balrog fight
so he'll now have a sapphire hilted dagger.
instead of a ruby one. Oh.
Yeah.
my-
Okay, yeah, Arnold. How
Mine's
about you?
on the same route, I guess. I'll go for the more what do you call the skin deep one. So obviously, Matt didn't join. Why? And he had that look in his face. It's very much like what I agree very much with what Paul said. He's assessing the situation, and he's figured, this way won't work. We'll probably just die in the process, and because they never got an answer about who was the one who asked. Was it Egwene who asked what happens to those who aren't the dragon?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what was the answer? There was no answer.
It was a no answer. It was an answer of no
It was
answer.
it was a Moiraine non-answer.
It was
Yeah.
it was a Maureen non-answer, which obviously
Yeah.
says a lot.
She has a lot of those. Yeah. she has a lot
Exactly.
of those.
Just stares at you with those blue eyes. Does she have blue eyes? And then she just stares at you with those eyes, and then you'd be like, "Yep." And then
Then
Matt
turns around and does her thing anyway.
does everything anyways. Exactly. It's like you really don't have any choice. And his decision was that the alternative, because there's really so far they've been just given two alternatives, right? Two choices:
Mhm.
go and fight the Dark One. Because if he, the story has been that the dragon will either fight the Dark One or join him, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
the effect of I can't even remember what the effect of fighting the Dark One is. Are we to vanquish the Dark One? Because he's just gonna come back, right? Because that's the entire thing that the wheel does.
Mhm.
And
Well, so yeah, that's how it's been, right? That's how it's
exactly.
been. The proposal of Moiraine is actually to vanquish the Dark One,
Mm,
to completely vanquish
to
the Dark One,
completely
because
vanquish.
what has been done before by Louis Theron Telamon, the dragon prior to this age,
Yep.
Was the trap.
yeah, he trapped the Dark One in the Eye of the World.
Exactly, because of, well, for whatever circumstances was under him that he couldn't apparently do what Moiraine is now suggesting. Um, Oh, I think this was one of the things that was discussed between Moiraine and Suwan when when Suwan actually suggested that, hey, you know, the Dark One's kind of weak right now. Let's go over to where he is and get, kill him while
And
he's
off
weak.
him.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe okay, that makes a little bit.
So it's basically like, Sauron's weak. We've got his ring. Let's bring it to Mount Doom now.
No,
Yep.
exactly. It's just right around the corner, though. So just make sure he doesn't get it.
Right?
Because I think
So
it's
again,
the same.
we can see the whole parallelism.
The whole
between
parallelism.
this
I think the only difference here is that instead of a one ring as a source of power, the one ring is represented by
it's
the
a one
dragon.
source.
The dragon,
But
Yeah.
which the Dark One can apparently either consume or
Sway.
inhabit or sway to join his side. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a person rather than a
Yeah,
ring.
and the other difference is that Gandalf is female.
yeah,
I never considered her as Gandalf. Now, anyway, what I wanted to say was that when Matt made that decision, it's that the decision was like, okay, this is not gonna work. I think I'm gonna go over to the other guy. So my expectation is we need that. We haven't encountered the Dark One except for those really, really weird visions when he shows up and he's got that really. I'm not sure if I'm really going for the Dark One's look at the moment, but he's very Dementor-ish. He's got a red face or red mouth. I don't know how. He's just like, he's just got this open mouth all the time, right? And I think we need a person on the other side of the ring to make the conversation interesting, and I think that'll be Matt. So whether Tom becomes part of that equation or not, I don't know. My train of thought doesn't really matter. I think Matt's had an epiphany as somebody who's been touched by darkness, right, through that curse, and he's made a realization. Now, to be clear, so far we've been introduced to the Dark One and the darkness from the point of view of just one side, right? Which is the Aes Sedai. This is how the narrative has been woven by the Aes Sedai.
Woven using
right.
jargon of the
Exactly,
of the
because
series.
it seems like we've seen all the power struggle. The politics, and how things are used, can potentially be used against you, spoken in certain ways. Sure, they cannot lie, but they have mastered the way of skirting the truth. And
speaking non-lies.
speaking non-lies, similar to non-answers,
Non-truths.
right?
Non-answers.
Non-answers, because a non-answer is not a lie, which is fascinating. Which makes me think that it's quite possible that the narrative of the Dark One is exactly that. It's a narrative. Now, obviously, this is a fantasy. There needs to be a big bad. And that big bad will probably be actually really bad. What I'm interested to find out is maybe that it's a evil that needs to be qualified, I guess. And Matt is might be there to be the one who's qualifying that. Remember how what's her name? Who's the bar wench in
the Dark Friend.
The Dark Friend. What was her name?
Yeah.
Danny.
She wasn't
Dana.
important enough.
I thought she was quite important. I thought she was quite important.
The Dark Friend.
Unfortunately,
Because she
I've
actually
forgotten her name.
introduced the audience to the concept of the Dark Friend.
Exactly.
Right.
That there are people who believe in him. And her explanation was actually quite compelling. They're tired of the wheel turning the way that it is.
Turning. Yeah.
especially for people who fate deemed to to be poor, to be weak,
Mhm.
to
But
be
for that to
destitute.
be for that to be true, right? You have to believe that you can't change whatever you are
And that
in life.
and that's what I was saying. That's one of the things. What's one of the concepts represented by the wheel, as far as what my understanding of the show is so far. Things will happen again, and it seems like some people believe that since the wheel turns, they've relegated their fate to that wheel turning.
Mm.
They have no agency. This is one of the things I was pointed out in the earlier episodes. That
Mm.
it seems that people don't think they have any agency in what's going on in their lives.
Mm.
And it seems that that's not the case, right?
That's not the
It doesn't
case.
seem to be that that's not the case. But people, it's been ingrained into them that to believe that this is the lot in life, and then you just have to wait for your next chance around the wheel.
Maybe that's the reason why Moraine keeps repeating that the old blood is really strong. Because the old blood can defy,
Can break the cycle.
can break the cycle. If there is
That's a thought.
if
That's a
there
thought.
is a if there is a because the wheel doesn't want anything, right? That's been explained.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
just
care.
a cycle. It
Yes.
doesn't care. It doesn't care. It's a cycle. It's a fact that it happens, right? So I think people still have the will to do what they want to do. They just have to have the will to do it.
Yes,
To-
exactly.
to do- right? So, but I think when they say the old blood is strong, I think in because of that specific what did they call it again?
Manetheren.
Manetheren. They had maybe they had like a different outlook which was shared between the city, the town, that
yes.
they're free to do what they want. They can do better than they were before.
Exactly.
The wheel keeps on turning, but they themselves, they keep on doing things to improve.
Their lot in life.
When exactly, so when they come back, because they believe that be the fact, right? When they come back, they have another opportunity to do more, to do better than what they did before.
See, I like that. I like that interpretation. And maybe this is where Matt comes in. Maybe he's that conversation. Maybe he just says that why does it have to be the Aes Sedai to specify that hey, things have to be done this way, right? Why does it have to be that? Maybe that's the wheel he wants to break. Because for all intents and purposes, we don't know what the wheel is, right? It could be the cycle of life. It could be the cycle of the past turning into the future and then the past again. It could be the cycle of power wherein one organization keeps repeating and spinning the same story to keep people within this, mindset, which locks them in, right? And then that cycle never ends. So it's just something that I'm thinking that he could represent in that conversation where they fight. When the good and evil conversation happens, it won't just be. It feels like this fight won't just be a pure, magic missiles and fireballs and all that happening. Rand, shooting an arrow every now and then.
Perrin's eyes turning golden.
Golden, no. At least he can do something because his power will be superhuman. Rand is. We're still waiting for Rand.
He's a late bloomer. He's a late bloomer.
He'll get there.
He'll get there when he holds the one spark and then the song starts. He's gonna power up.
Yeah.
He's gonna power up. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, it's interesting that the two of you focused your theories and your expectations and your predictions on the character of Matt, actually. And actually, that's the focus of my question. My question for the key discussion of the week, of the episode, right? So yeah, for this episode, we've seen Matt. We've seen all of them, the Two Rivers Five. Right, they were bombarded with the information that they're supposedly headed to the place where the Dark One is being imprisoned, and they're supposedly on a mission to finally vanquish the Dark One and rid the world of that evil. And to get there, you have to go through the ways, right? You have to use ways, right? So maybe this like,
I just got it. I just got it.
so
Oh
yeah,
my
so
god.
but it is called the ways, and they did call it the ways even back then. So yeah, you use the ways. It's an interdimensional path that seems more perilous than a simple boot on a hill or even a fireplace that burns green. All right. So if you were in their shoes, what would you have done? Would you have joined Nynaeve, Egwene, Rand, and Perrin? Or would you have stayed behind like Matt? And why?
Well, okay. For me, my approach would be, if I'm stuck in this party, right? And I know five of the people who are also
Four.
in the same situation, stuck. Oh, sorry, four.
For others, yeah.
Who are also in the same situation, who are stuck with these um, two people who we hardly know, plus a ogre, ogier. I would go where more people would be, just because I would wanna see them safe. Those
Ooh.
how many people are going with them, right? So because these are the people I know, these are my people, right? So I don't want anything bad to happen to them. So I'd rather go with them to ensure that, you know, they're all safe. So that would be my analysis on that, if ever I would get stuck in
what
that
if so
situation.
there's five? What if it
If
had
it
been
was an
two and two?
even split, if it was an even split, my calculation would be, since they have a, pretty powerful wizard and a pretty powerful warrior, I would stay with the two who did opt not to go, so to make sure that they are safe.
Ah,
Wow.
Right.
Being a support character.
very, very calculating. I mean,
Yeah. What about you, Nob?
my take would have been, I have to qualify. Do I have any special abilities?
You're just like one of the Two Rivers Five.
Your Rand, you can shoot an arrow.
See, that's the trouble here. Rand didn't even bat an eyelash. I think he's just following where Egwene goes. He's so much like a puppy, a lost puppy, just following.
Lost puppy.
Right? So, there was no even consideration on where was the questioning that was happening in the beginning of the season. Where did it go and suddenly just vanished and says, all right, yeah, Egwene's gonna go with her, so I'm gonna go. So I'm just qualifying.
Yeah, that's because absence makes the heart grow fonder. So
Right.
yeah, they've been without each other for a month.
Exactly.
So anywhere she
I
goes,
don't
he's
care.
gonna go.
I'm just gonna go here.
Yeah.
She's very much like I'm just going to go into this waste, in this dark place with a bow and arrow and see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
I can't be
Yeah.
Rand because we already know what Rand will become. So that's a bit cheating.
we do.
That's a bit of a cheating thing. So
We don't know that.
don't know that.
Probably.
so let's just say
Who knows? Maybe they've changed a lot of details
Yeah,
that's fair.
about the show. Maybe they changed
That's
that part
fair.
as well.
I don't know what they'll
He's
change.
gonna turn out to be the dark one.
Yeah.
Dark one.
He's gonna be
reborn.
the throwaway character. Everybody thinks he's important. He's just such sort of red herring.
He's a
And
red
then
herring.
He's gonna get a Ned Stark treatment.
Exactly. He just dies
gets
the moment he
beheaded.
arrives. Like what? That was it? And then
As soon as they get out of the waste.
exactly, it just explodes. I mean, and so if I'm Perrin, let's just
Okay.
say Perrin's it's a bit better. Although you have to wonder if there are any wolves in the
In the waste or even in the eye,
way,
at the eye of
or
the
in
world.
the eye of the world, right? Are there
Right.
are there dark wolves, dire wolves? Does he have any power over them? At the very least, he can call upon his strength, his like superhuman strength. Well, his bestial strength, right? And I like.
Did he even exhibit?
Yes,
No.
he broke
He didn't.
his bindings.
No, he
that was
didn't.
Egwene.
That
Was
was
that Egwene?
Egwene.
Oh.
She burned the binding.
Yeah.
Oh, so
She
was it
distracted
She
Child
distracted,
Valda with
yeah,
the
with
pathetic
the
fireball.
with the Dan Hadouken, and then
Yeah.
he was burning.
But she was on
Oh. I actually
but
thought that was him.
with the distraction she was burning
The
the
bindings.
Yeah, that's why
binding.
if you notice, it actually was smoking a bit
Yeah.
Gotcha.
before.
I actually thought that was him.
Yeah.
So no.
So his power right now is just his eyes glow golden.
I don't mind having golden eyes. That's pretty cool, I think.
It might be useful in the ways.
Exactly. Maybe
Right? You might have night vision.
or your eyes become headlights,
Yeah.
You can probably smell the dark one.
That's it. Yeah. And plus you've got nothing to lose. Whereas if you're Matt, you have two younger sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your only power, which came from cursed dagger, fine, was taken from you. Right? Right? And all you really have now is this uncertainty whether you murder the family in the barn or not. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So totally, if I were Matt, I'd totally go what his frame of thinking, it makes sense. Of all the three who's just running into danger willy-nilly because they think they're the Dragon Reborn, whereas Matt is pretty certain he is not. So
it's in his character also.
Exactly. So I would totally agree. If I were the Matt character, I would totally agree with what he did and
With not going.
with not going or finding a different. Because so far all we know is that he didn't go, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what other foolishness he's gonna get into.
Yeah.
He's gonna look for the dagger again.
He's gonna look for the dagger and it's
Yeah.
gonna consume him.
That's
I don't
true.
know. Yeah, that's true. Maybe.
It's gonna become his precious.
There you go. He's gonna hide somewhere in a cave for the next 500 years.
In the
That's
Misty
fine.
Mountains.
That's fine. He's not killing anybody. He's just gonna go look for fish.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what
wow.
is this extra question you have here?
This extra question? Do you want to go into that? All right. Since you brought it up, I'm gonna ask it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna ask it regardless.
Yeah, actually I was. So the extra question that we got something extra for you tonight. So the question is
round.
bonus round. Were Moiraine and Swan justified in not trusting other sisters with a secret mission? Because if it is their plan, it's their plan alone. Were they justified in not trusting any of the other sisters, not even the Blues? Because if the exile that Swan puts Moiraine is actually goes against the idea of the Blue Aja.
Yes.
Right? So not even their original Aja, because Swan is also a Blue Aja. Was formerly a Blue Aja.
Yeah, which makes it a little bit more.
Let's go with Arnold first for this one.
I think yes. I think just because of how the power politics is working out in the White Tower, there's too many eyes, too many hands in the same pot will result in either too late of a decision because they'll be talking about it for too long, deciding what to have to do, or they will do something reckless, like go there themselves and deal with the Dark One, right? Not seeking out the Dragon Reborn and persuading them to join the side, their side, right? So yes, I think it was smart. These are two Blues, and that means they're two very scheming women. They're women with
They
with
are
a lot
an
of
Aja of
plans.
very scheming women.
Well, that's true. It's just that it seems like the Blues have, since they're in charge of gathering information, I would have assumed that even if the other Ajas have their information networks, the Blues excel in this part, in this aspect of society more than their sisters. So I would have expected that they would have plans upon plans upon plans, contingencies upon contingencies, and they've come up with a solution that if they were to try to do this, the only way for them to do this is to make sure nobody else finds out. So yes, totally.
Paul, your thoughts?
I think it's we are of the same mind, me and Arnold, on this one, because it's pretty obvious from the start of the show that the rest of, I mean, not, I guess not the rest, but a lot of the other women in the tower are just really out for themselves. So they're
Ooh.
playing the political game, trying to get more power. And how would you trust? Why would you trust someone like Leandrin, who hates men, who says she hates men, but she has a man on the side, right? So we you can't even, she represents the Red Aja, and you can't even trust her to do what the red, what the Reds are supposed to be doing, which is staying away from men. So
Is that what they're supposed to be doing? I
yeah,
thought they were
I don't
policing.
know.
I thought they were policing the world. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It is so true.
Because she's just going against what, and besides, it's, I think it's the whole reason why they don't share it with anyone. Is it because they're the only two people in the room when the prophecy was foretold? So the information that they, like, when they get asked, right? So for example, they bring, I don't know, the was it an Irish girl, the Irish blue leader, was it?
Yeah, she's like the head of the
Yeah.
Right.
Blue Aja
Yeah.
faction.
If they bring her in, right, to the circle, to the current secret circle, and she asks, because she's blue, so she's bound to ask, where did this information come from? And then they go, this person said, like, when did she say it? Because they can't prove it, because there were the only two people there. No one else was there when the prophecy was foretold. So I don't know, it makes sense that they don't trust anyone else. What they could have done was mask the information, and maybe put things into order that would benefit their goal, but not outright say, so compartmentalize the process of what they need to set up to achieve their goal. Because right now they're the two people who know about it, and they're just the two people who are working on on the problem. Whereas if they compartmentalized it, just giving key information, being vague, just giving, or
Giving non-answers.
yeah,
The problem
or
with
just
that,
given tasks that are very simple, but actually lead to a bigger thing that only they know about.
I get what you're suggesting, but the problem with that is that these women will question whether they will question the Amerlin seat directly. Obviously, they won't, right? But they will do.
Won't they?
Until they've gotten enough information or something that would actually force the Amerlin seat's hand into a decision that they probably would have prepared for, is the only time they would make a move. Remember, the power politics here is probably not a lot of people may not be happy with who's the current Amerlin seat. We've known that we found out that the Reds, for example, have been gaining a foothold or a stronger representation in whatever their organization is, the deciding body of will. We don't even know how the Amerlin seat is actually given. How one becomes the Amerlin seat, right?
Right.
Is it some sort of democracy? Doesn't seem to be the case. So if more people were, even with bits and pieces, they would question, they would ask, and they will find bits and pieces and may act upon the incorrect pieces of information. So that's probably where I'm actually more surprised by the fact that nobody else has found out anything. Because, right? If things are as bad as they are supposed to be, wouldn't there be signs?
Yeah.
And to be fair, there already are. You've got Trollocs running across.
Trollocs running
amok,
that far
right?
south.
Exactly,
Yep.
running amok. You've got there were a few that they've pointed
Wolves
out.
coming down from the mountains.
Exactly. So
Right.
there are actually signs already, and I'm just surprised that nobody else has caught on to them. Huh? So yeah, but I mean, I get what you're trying to suggest, but I think that's why they didn't even consider that one. They cannot even
Maybe it's
trust
a
their
case-
sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe it's a case of, just like the frog who's slowly getting boiled, doesn't know that it's
Right.
getting boiled
Yeah.
because it's very small increments of
Yeah.
bad things
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but later on they all of a sudden become boiled frog.
Lot of frogs.
And that is it for this episode. The wheel has been turning for ages, and for us, this is a new beginning. Next time, we will probably finally get to the eye of the world. No, probably in 2 more episodes.
2 more episodes.
As always, dear audience, we hope you tune in to the next episode and continue to hang out with us. Till then, bye.